Welcome to Duly Nerded. I'm Chris.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to episode 2, where we're going to talk about all things DC today.
And you already messed it up.
Episode 1.
Fuck! Sorry, guys. Episode 1. That's all right. We'll roll with it. Episode 1. Sorry, episode 0, episode 1. So, yeah, episode 1 of Duly Nerded. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, let's get started. So, good week this week. I mean, we had everyone had a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to hand it over to Matt. What was up for you this week?
Not a lot. Actually, I watched a couple animes. Might be interesting. I watched Boku no Hero Academia, which is a superhero thing. If anyone's a fan of that, I recommend checking it out. And I also started Shiki, which is a vampire horror thing.
That is a good one. I enjoyed that.
You've seen
one.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, you might be interested because they follow a lot of classic vampire rules as well. Like, can't enter a household without permission. And they find some interesting workarounds for that, which is really cool.
Nice.
Also, I picked up Alan Wake again. Started playing that. Might finish it for the first time ever. Because I got about halfway through on a rental the first time I played it.
Nice, yeah, so good. And for you kids out there that don't know what a rental is, it's where you went down to the old video store and you picked one out, took it to the counter, and they gave it to you for 3 days.
Yep. It was like a week, but not long enough. Especially sharing playtime with my brother.
And, so, I mean, for me this week, I spent a lot of time watching Westerns, working on a new project. So, been watching Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Watched Django Unchained. Actually, watched Django Unchained for the first time.
That's such a good movie.
Looks like a good one.
I had so much fun watching that. That was one, actually, me and a bunch of friends, whenever we would end up out in the field or something like that, that was one of the ones we had on our hard drive that we would just throw up if we got stuck on Watch at Night or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I Tarantino's very hit or miss for me, but I really enjoyed it. And I mean, it was great. It had just enough of the campy Western with just enough of the Tarantino twist to it that it was made for a really enjoyable movie. So it was great.
And again, Christoph Waltz is amazing. I really enjoyed his character in Inglourious Bastards, which I know is a film you weren't too fond of.
See, that one I did like, because I didn't get caught up in the pre-hype for it.
Inglourious Bastards I really enjoyed, but Christoph Waltz nailed it in that one. So as soon as I found out he was coming back for Django, I was pretty excited.
Well, I mean, Christoph Waltz is one of those guys you just can't go wrong with most of the time. He's a pretty solid actor, so...
Yeah. Well, and I remember there were memes going around because didn't he win an Academy Award or something like that for Django?
I don't recall if he won or not. I'd have to check that out.
Yeah, I don't really remember off the top of my head, but there was memes going around that he won his before Leo won his.
But hey, Leo's got his now,
right?
Yes, Leo finally got his. He definitely finally got his.
Kind of old news by the time this comes out, but hey, we're still happy for him. It's been a long time coming.
It has. I'm surprised. I mean, the Academy is there's a lot of politics behind that, so I'm glad he finally got his. And it looks like...
Yeah.
I just pulled it up. I don't see him winning an Academy Award. He won some awards at Cannes and a couple other places.
Okay.
And he got a Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes.
Oh, Golden Globes, okay.
Yeah,
I think that was the one I was thinking of.
But still, I mean, solid performance. He was really, really fun to watch. So Anthony, what about your week?
So this week, I mean, just another kind of busy week at work. I spent most of my time doing that. However, there was a limited release screening of The Killing Joke that we went to that was absolutely amazing.
Yes, indeed.
I had a blast with that film. I mean, I can see some of the complaints that people had with it, but by and large, it was a great film. They did a good job setting up Oracle and her storyline. Mark Hamill as the Joker just fucking killed it, like always. I mean,
say what you will about some of the live-action Jokers like Heath Ledger, but Mark Hamill's still my favorite Joker.
Yeah, he'll
after all these years.
I mean, for I think all three of us here, Mark Hamill will always and forever be our favorite Joker. Not to take away from Heath Ledger's performance,
others,
or even Jack Nicholson, or any of the other multitude of people that have played the Joker over the years.
Yeah,
but
there have been a lot.
It's just the Mark Hamill, and I think part of the reason I like the Mark Hamill Joker is because I kind of grew up watching the Batman animated series, and Just that Mark Hamill Joker laugh is absolutely iconic.
Yeah, and laugh is what makes it.
It really does. I mean, you look at all the great Joker performances. Again, Heath Ledger did an outstanding job. Jack Nicholson really did a solid job. And I mean, when Mark Hamill took over the role as the Joker, that was one of the things he was told. That's one of the things he was told explicitly was not Jack Nicholson, because Jack Nicholson really took that character and made it his own. And I think, Mark Hamill's his Joker was just phenomenal. His portrayal was excellent. I mean, yeah, for me, he'll always be my favorite.
It was always interesting too, because the Heath Ledger Joker was really good because again, he jumped into it. He was like the 100% like deranged, crazy, like just nuts. But the Mark Hamill Joker, the thing that's really cool about the Mark Hamill Joker is there's like the bouts of lucidity where like the Joker just kind of makes sense, and you're like, whoa, hold up.
Yeah, I think his and I mean, there's always been that yin yang between the Joker and Batman. That's always going to be there. But yeah, I mean, Mark Hamill is always and forever my Joker, as it is, I know, for both of you guys as well.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, talking a little more about The Killing Joke. There's a lot of contrasting opinions on it right now. I mean, it's got a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which take it with a grain of salt. But it's either people loved it or they hated it. And I've come to find that really what people's issue came down to the Barbara Gordon stuff. And for me, I didn't mind it. I think that, and
to be fair, they did have to add in a few more things, because I don't know if the original story itself would be enough to fill an entire movie slot.
Well, and as it was, the film was only about an hour and a half, so if they hadn't had those scenes, it would have been maybe like a 45-minute film.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, because I mean, we went and saw the limited release. It just came out this week, so I'm not going to spoil anything about it. But there was
spoiling an old story.
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of the added Barbara stuff, I can definitely understand why people are upset about it. Some of it did feel very forced to me.
Right.
And again, I get it. They were trying to set up certain things for the last part of the film. But, I mean, overall, especially when it got to the Killing Joke content, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, Joker's musical number was just amazing.
So, yeah, the Joker's musical number, the One Bad Day speech, chills. Like, just, oh, my God, I had chills through that.
I think I heard Mark Hamill perform that at a panel or something at Comic-Con a few days before the movie released.
Actually, that was a couple of years ago. They had him do it on stage in Hall H.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I was there. It was glorious.
Oh, well, it came back in wonderful fashion.
But yeah, I mean, it was really great because...
And I haven't even seen the movie yet. It's just these two so far.
We all saw him. I mean, everyone's seen the clip on YouTube of him performing it. It was amazing. And he actually added a little something extra to it for the Killing Joke. It really was fantastic. I mean, both the Joker's monologues were fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It was really, really good. And then, like, even, like, the Joker, like, flashback scenes, where, if you haven't read the comic book, there's kind of, like, a little Red Hood, like, cameo kind of thing. And, it's, like, pre-Joker, Joker, and the Red Hood. And that was really well done. Like,
yeah, and it was really the first time that anyone... I mean, when it came to the comic verse, it was one of the first times they really decided to try and delve into the Joker's past and who he was before, because that's always been one of the biggest charms of the Joker, is you don't really know anything about him. You don't know.
In the Joker's own words, he prefers his past to be multiple choice.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. That makes the character so interesting.
But the flip side of that, though, is like having those scenes made that One Bad Day speech,
it does
that much more like just like punch in the gut.
It's amazing, and don't get me wrong, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and like that, actually, the animation for that film was really good too. Like there were the couple scenes like straight out of the comic book with like just the creepy Joker face that like.
And they did a fantastic job of maintaining the art style from the comic, from the graphic novel, and really keeping that alive inside of the film, which was really great. And I mean, you don't get much better than Alan Moore, like, heading up something like this. So taking a beloved story that he created, and something that's, a lot of people put The Killing Joke up there as their favorite graphic novel.
And it definitely is. Like, The Killing Joke, I wouldn't put it up as my favorite, but I would have to say, like, my favorite would probably be Hush. But Killing Joke...
That's another good story.
Exactly. Killing Joke is a very close second, though.
And it's funny, like, the majority of a lot of the really good Batman graphic novels, the trades, which I wish DC was better at publishing their trades.
Yeah.
They're so slow at that. But, I mean, one of the great... I mean, I personally am a huge fan of The Long Halloween. That probably is my favorite when it comes to him. But The Killing Joke is great because it just... It's the Joker we all love. It's the Joker that we never really had a lot of. It was really the only time. I mean, obviously it was made in 1988, so it was the only time we got to experience this really dark Joker until we got the Batman Begins series that came around. So we didn't get a lot of, the Joker that then you look at all the animated series, which was more lighthearted, and you look at the Tim Burton stuff and.
Now,
I mean, they were all great.
Kind of hard to find the more lighthearted Joker.
Yeah, and now
you guys bring up those stories. My favorite is probably Death of the Family, which is very dark.
Yeah, and now you also have to look at... I mean, The Killing Joke's made a big comeback with this film, even though it's very controversial. That's been a huge thing. And then you also have to look at the Rocksteady games. I mean, the portrayal of the Joker in there... And Mark Hamill himself even said, like, oh my God, this is so dark. And I loved the Rocksteady games. Say what you will about Arkham Knight, but... Again, Mark Hamill killed it and stole the show in all of those games.
Yeah. And in the vein of that, honestly, like, speaking of good Jokers, like, it's not quite Mark Hamill level, but Troy Baker did a very good Mark Hamill-esque Joker in Arkham Origins.
Yeah, and
which
we were actually...
Ooh, actually, so...
very interesting.
Gonna change the topic just a tiny bit. So, talking about the different Jokers...
That's
we just watched
segue.
Well, no, but like the different Jokers. We just watched the Lego Batman trailers earlier today.
Yes, indeed.
And oh my God, those are hilarious.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what's coming. We'll talk a little more about Lego Batman here in a minute, but I'm really excited for a lot of stuff coming up. I hope DC's getting their stuff. I've always been a huge fan. DC animated films have always been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Beneath the Red Hood was just so good, and a lot of the animated Justice League stuff. I mean, there's a lot of really great DC animated stuff. Where they really have struggled is their live action. But
exactly. And I mean, it took like Christopher Nolan to like revive their live action franchise.
Yeah, and
kind of the opposite of Marvel in a few ways.
Right.
Like Marvel's really good about the live action stuff, but they don't have that many standout animated series, in my opinion. Anyway.
I would agree 100%. And kind of looping back as we were talking about The Killing Joke and Mark Hamill and Troy Baker, I do want to talk about Troy Baker a little bit. We were talking to someone at the premiere that we were watching, and she was like, Troy Baker did a good job impersonating him, and I'd be okay with him being the Joker if Mark Hamill died.
Yeah.
And which I agree. I think that if we wanted more of that, but honestly, my only downside to that is I would really, really like to see another person's viewpoint on the Joker. I mean, I would really like to see that.
Yeah.
I've seen a few others, like I believe John DiMaggio voiced the Joker once. That was kind of an interesting experience.
Mm-hmm. But I mean...
Because he's got a very deep voice, which kind of sounds weird coming out of the Joker.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
But for more recent stuff, I mean, Mark Hamill and Heath Ledger are really what's... And I mean, obviously we have Jared Leto coming up, and I am skeptical, but...
Yeah, it's one of those...
Staying cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it's one of those I'm going to reserve judgment, because I mean, I know I'm going to go see it, but it's one of those things that... I do have a couple concerns about the Suicide Squad that, I'll just have to wait and see, what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And that's going to kind of lead into my topic today. I wanted to, just expand from just The Killing Joke to all the new DCU stuff that's going on right now. Obviously, take what you will with Superman and then Batman vs. Superman. I know that there were a lot of varied opinions on those, but... personally, I'm very excited. Jeff Johns is taking the helm, and Jeff Johns has a very special place in my heart. He did Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth, which were two of my... And he's actually doing the DC Rebirth, which I can't wait for. But I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with this. I really think that he's the guy that's going to turn this around. He did Green Lantern Rebirth. If you haven't read it, go buy it. You can get it in a trade. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
But kind of talking about the DC universe. So, Justice League trailer obviously premiered at Comic-Con.
Super good.
Yeah, I'm very excited again. Glad
that Jason Momoa, though.
Oh my god!
Right?
I do have to say, DC has been really trying to make Aquaman a badass in a lot of their new stuff, and I don't think there's any better way to make a character badass than to cast Jason Momoa.
I mean, Jesus Christ, that dude was Conan. He was Khal Drogo. Like, yeah, no, he's a badass, and I honestly I approve of that casting decision. I mean, it's a good choice.
And I think a lot of their casting has been pretty solid.
Well, and that's what I was about to bring up, the whole, Ben Affleck Batman thing. Like, I mean, I know there's a lot of problems with, like, Batman vs. Superman, a lot of complaints about it, rather. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it for what it was. But it's one of those things, I think Ben Affleck, because he gets to portray a pretty dark Batman, but he doesn't have to really follow in the, really the Christian Bale footsteps, so he can kind of make it his own.
And I think
he did an amazing job with that. So I'm excited to kind of see how he keeps the character going.
Yeah, and I think where we're really going to see this is, one, Ben Affleck is co-writing the standalone Batman film, and I think between the standalone Batman film and the Justice League, we're really going to see what his Batman is.
Yeah,
I think that we're going to have a much better understanding. I mean, Zack Snyder, say what you will, I think that he definitely had created some issues in the DC universe, so I'm glad that they're trying to right the path of the universe and really go. I mean, the new Wonder Woman trailer looks awesome.
Oh yeah, no, the Wonder Woman trailer looks really good. Plus, I'm not gonna lie, Gal Gadot is just gorgeous.
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah, she's absolutely beautiful for sure.
See, Wonder Woman's the one I'm a little skeptical on, just because the trailer portrays it in such a way that she could almost be like DC stand-in for Captain America.
Well, and ultimately,
it seems that she's very out of her element just in the timeline where it's portrayed.
I think for me, the important thing about that is that they're really, like, from the trailer, it's very empowering, which is great. I think it's important to empower a female character.
Wonder Woman is a total badass.
And what better way to empower a female character than put her in a time that women were not empowered?
Right.
So we can really see Wonder Woman stand out and be that strong woman that, everyone in the comic fandom has come to love.
And even then, you look at kind of just like, the comic books in general. I mean, Wonder Woman was essentially like a DC response to Captain America.
Kind of.
I mean, you've got, not quite the same thing, obviously, because, you have like the, American soldier with the, super serum and all that kind of stuff versus like, the Amazonian. But you look at like, you look at her weapons, the shield.
Yeah.
And, even her armor design is very similar.
Lasso of Truth.
Exactly.
That invisible jet.
Yeah.
So that's still around. That's the dumbest. Especially since she can fly. That is the dumbest.
Yeah. I'm not going to say DC hasn't made some questionable choices in the past,
right.
But, I mean, there was Marvel, back in the 80s.
Aquaman's reputation.
Yeah, they're still trying to salvage Aquaman, but
Friends.
Marvel went through some rough times as well, but, I mean, they put it all in line with their cinematic universe, and I can't lie, they've done a fantastic job on that. And I have to give it to Marvel. I have to give it to Disney. They did a fantastic job. And really, when you look at it, Iron Man was an independent film. It was really before anything. It was before Disney, but Marvel. It was just Marvel Studios by themselves producing it. So, and they did a hell of a job. So I'm really excited to see where DC's going to go with a lot of it. I mean, again, their animated stuff is great. They need to get their live-action stuff back on point, so I think that's important. I think
they're moving in the right direction, I think.
They are, and Wonder Woman and Justice League are really going to tell us whether they fail or they've turned it around and they start to right the ship, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, so, like, you were talking about the original Iron Man, with it being its own independent thing. I mean, that was a Jon Favreau film, and he's just amazing. Like,
oh, yeah, I mean, no one's going to argue that Iron Man wasn't a great film. It's really what put comics in the mainstream and did a great job. And I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is
he is
the best, the quintessential Tony Stark.
Exactly.
There's no better casting that could have been done. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that could have
honestly,
done it.
I feel like that has been where DC has struggled for the most part. Up until, kind of like the whole Dark Knight saga.
Casting.
Well, casting and just getting the right people for the right tone for the right film. Which, again, like Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale for Batman, just fit perfectly.
Whereas Superman, they keep trying to make him gritty, but the character is...
Well, and
he's got his dark points, but he's not gritty like Batman.
Yeah,
he's
and
conflicted.
The problem is that's exactly what Zack Snyder tried to do, is he tried to take what Nolan did with Batman and put that into Superman, and it just doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
I mean, it really doesn't.
I mean, you can get some good angst with Superman, but it has to be done right. Yeah. I mean, especially for the character that Superman is. But, even then, so, talking about, the casting combo for, a superhero film, you look at Ryan Reynolds. Terrible Green Lantern. Amazing Deadpool.
Yeah.
You've got to find, the right people for the right film.
Yeah, and you look at Chris Evans. Yeah. Human Torch versus Captain America. I mean, we can see
tying it back into Ben Affleck as Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean, we can see it, and it really comes down to not necessarily the actor. I think that, the actor is important, but looking at the films, Ben Affleck's a hell of an actor, but given a shitty script with shitty writers and a shitty director, and you're going to get a shitty movie with a great actor.
Yeah. Right.
So
look at the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Ewan McGregor is much better in pretty much anything else.
Right. Well, Ewan McGregor is an amazing actor. I loved him in Big Fish. I loved him in Trainspotting.
The problem is you took 2 Academy Award-winning actors. You have Ewan McGregor, and you have...
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, Liam Neeson.
So you have all these specifically the 2 Academy Award winners. So, and you put them under George Lucas, and that's just asking for trouble. I mean, Lucas created a wonderful universe, but man,
this
the
is
guy
coming from Star Wars fans.
Yeah, we love Star Wars, obviously, but the guy just cannot put together a fucking film. Oh my god.
Well, even you look at the original trilogy. The best one out of those was the one not directly done by Lucas.
Oh, yeah, Empire, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
As good as the original trilogy is, they're still very corny.
Especially, let's be real, the Ewoks. That should have been our fair warning about Jar Jar Binks coming in the future.
Well, they should have been the Wookiees. They were going to be the Wookiees, which would have made more sense and would have been cooler. Just in general.
Well, okay, so the problem
From what I've heard, anyway.
Yeah, but the problem is it came down to merchandising, because that's one thing Star Wars has always been about, is the merch. And Ewoks are
because I think that was part of the original deal that Lucas had, wasn't it? That, he didn't get a whole lot of the film rights, but he got all of the merchandising rights.
Well, that's how they made a lot of their money early on and everything. And I mean, the biggest thing is, I'm gonna quote Barney Stinson here on the Ewoks, and I mean, for a lot of people that were born after it and it resembled our teddy bears, people loved the Ewoks. But that line, anyone before Ewoks were stupid, and it all came down to merchandising. And Jar Jar Binks, of course, was their attempt to appeal to the younger audience, and it obviously failed miserably.
Attempt.
Yeah, it's so god-awful, so bad. But, I mean, yeah, you look at Episode 5, which Irvin Kershner, the guy is a fucking genius. He did such a great job on Episode 5. And, I mean, we've all come to know and love everything about that film. And
well, I mean, you talk Star Wars, the most quoted line from the entire saga is from that film.
Yeah, although people quote it wrong.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, we're being stuck up. I apologize.
Star Wars elitism, go.
Right.
But, no, yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of the big quotable, the big quotes, and a lot, I mean, I am your father.
I know,
yeah. Han Solo.
So the 2 biggest quotes are from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's how you know if you're going to be with a girl for a long time, is if they say I love you and you say I know, and you see what happens after that, then you can find out where the relationship is headed.
Test the waters there.
Right.
Is she on board? Is she not?
But yeah, getting back to the DC universe, I think that there's definitely a line being drawn in the sand, and if Justice League and the stuff that Jeff Johns is heading up is not successful, I think Warner Brothers, I don't know if they necessarily kill it, but they're not going to go forward to the extent of what Marvel's done with their universe.
And absolutely, Marvel has basically, they've almost put all of their eggs in one basket with the the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
DC, on the other hand, despite the fact that a lot of their films have been struggling and not quite as good as everybody would have hoped, they have an amazing television run. You look at Arrow, that's an amazing show. Gotham,
Supergirl.
Yeah. So DC is starting to kind of figure out their niche.
Well, the big thing with DC is they've gotten their television and their animated stuff down great, but they haven't found that one voice to bring their characters to the big screen yet. Nolan has been by far the closest, and I think that, I mean, I still think The Dark Knight Rises was a rough ending. I don't think it was a terrible ending, but I think it was a little rough. For me personally, being a big Bane fan, I was super disappointed that he was being manipulated by Talia al Ghul. I mean,
but see, I don't see it that way. I don't think he was manipulated. I think he was just an accomplice, and he was the face of the operation. Like, you say manipulated, I think he was just sort of like the face, while
I don't know.
Talia was the brain.
He was the love struck.
Looking that scene at the end, the way Talia holds him and talks to him, I definitely feel like it was more manipulative. And I mean, that's totally up to everyone, obviously, how they see that. But I was very disappointed because Bane is a brilliant, villain, and his biggest downfall is his addiction to Venom.
Yeah, and that was my biggest thing. Is like, they didn't bring up the whole like poison Bane like at all. It was just
it's more like big
and strong.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Tom Hardy I think was a great casting.
Absolutely, I love Tom Hardy. Like,
he bulked out so much for that.
He did. He did a great job as Bane, and the whole scene of breaking Batman's back. I was like, that was everything I wanted that scene to be.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah,
and then Tom Hardy, even in any of his other films, was it Warrior and all that? Like, Tom Hardy's a great actor, and he did a great job with the Bane he was given.
Exactly, and I definitely agree with that. And he was really strong. Like I said, really loved it. Like the first half of that movie, even first 3/4 of it, I really, really enjoyed. And I was kind of let down with the whole Talia thing, and that was kind of a little disappointing. But I get they wanted to loop it around back to Ra's al Ghul,
right?
Back in Batman Begins. So I get it, and they tied up their story where they needed to. But it's hard after doing The Dark Knight. It's really hard to live up to that because they did a great
very
job
tough
with
act
that
to
film.
follow.
Very much so. But it's great, and this kind of leads us into this is going to be a regular segment on the show. We're going to kind of talk about our top. Do a little bit of a countdown. We're going to talk about top fives on a lot of different things. And, of course, since today we're talking about DC, naturally that's going to lead us...
Batman.
And very much Batman. That's going to lead us to our top 5 favorite Batman things.
Moments or whatever,
So they can be moments. They can be overall movies.
Pieces
they can
of
be
media.
comics. Yeah, it can be anything. So I'm going to actually toss this over to Matt to go through his top 5 here.
Okay, me first. Don't want to leave it too quiet for too long, but unless Anthony has somewhere to go with
here,
it.
I'll go ahead and take it.
So
so I'd have to say, my top 5 just kind of, and again, there's very little direction here. It's just kind of something things we enjoy about the Batman franchise. So for me, I'm gonna lead it off with Azrael. Because I enjoy the history aspect of his character. I love the fact that he's kind of like an anti-hero almost.
Yeah. So real quick, let's go ahead and just do. We're gonna pare this down. Let's go with our top 5 Batman villains.
Okay,
that'll bring. There's so many Batman things. Let's go to the Rogues Gallery, which is something Batman is very well known for.
Yeah.
Probably the best Rogues Gallery in comics.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll still leave Azrael up there because I just think his dynamic with the Bat family is amazing, and especially because of the fact that it goes with the armor, so they kind of have to reestablish that relationship. And every time someone starts going crazy from it, things change and all that. I dig that relationship a lot. Then again, these next ones are going to be a little mainstream, but they're mainstream because they're really good characters. I feel so. The Joker. The Joker is amazing. I love the dynamic the Joker has with Batman. And again, that was one of those things that, like I mentioned earlier, my 2 favorite Batman graphic novels are The Killing Joke and Hush. And in Hush, it's literally this suspicion that it's the Joker behind it the whole time, and you're not really sure what's going on.
Yeah.
And turns out there's some other stuff. I'm not going to spoil it for those that haven't read the novel. But yeah, no, I mean the Joker was a heavy presence in a graphic novel without even having to be in the graphic novel. It was amazing.
It's just that paranoia of, is the Joker watching? What is the Joker doing at any given point in time that Batman constantly has now?
Yeah, and then next, probably going to go with the League of Assassins.
Just as a whole?
Yeah, and then tie that in with my number 2, then with Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Just because, those two, Ra's al Ghul and, just his whole dynamic, the fact that he is so old and so intelligent and basically so in control of everything is very interesting. And then the League of Assassins and their ties with Batman and the rest of the DC villains It's very interesting. And then I'd have to say, and again, this one's going to be a little odd, but my number one would probably have to be the Penguin, just because I remember watching that Batman movie as a kid.
See, I would have thought Azrael would be your number one, because I know you're a big Azrael fan.
Oh, I am absolutely a big Azrael fan, but objectively, he's not really a villain, so I couldn't put him too high up on that list.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump into mine. So, my number 5 is Mr. Freeze. Obviously, a lot of people know Mr. Freeze as Arnold, and that's not...
That ruined Mr. Freeze for me for so long.
Yeah, so
what
we're not...
killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Frosty!
We're not looking at Arnold, Mr. Freeze. Actually, one of the things that cemented... You guys are terrible. One of the things that really cemented Mr. Freeze for me was seeing him in Arkham City. His portrayal in Arkham City was so awesome and really, like, cemented my love for the character.
That saved Mr. Freeze for me.
It really did. Mr. Freeze is my number 5. He's really, really great. A very tragic story. Everything about him is tragic because really he's a villain out of necessity. He's trying to save his wife, and that to me, I love the character. I love everything about it. Very dynamic. So, number 4 on my list is the Joker. It's hard not to have the Joker on the list,
right?
Because he is the quintessential Batman villain. I mean, when you talk to a lot of people, the Joker's the one they know, the one they love, and he's great. Again, going back to Mark Hamill really does my favorite Joker, and he will forever be my favorite Joker. So. Coming in at number 3 for me, Deathstroke. And I know this can be argued that he's not really a Batman villain, which I get.
Not specifically.
But Teen Titans and a lot of other things, because he was introduced in the Teen Titans and so on and so forth. But he was a really big part of some Batman storylines, and Deathstroke as a character is really, really appealing to me. I really, really like the character.
Yeah.
So, really, really cool.
Which, in their representation of him on Arrow was amazing.
Yeah, which I haven't gotten that far in Arrow, so
I haven't seen.
I'll have to check it out. But yeah, Deathstroke is awesome. Coming in at number 2 for me, Scarecrow. I love Scarecrow because he fights Batman. He doesn't have the physical strength to match Batman, but he has the intellectual strength to really and with his toxic gases. Really can do. There's a lot of things that happen with Scarecrow. Really, really cool, and I love that. Started out as a psychiatrist and has basically been driven mad by his own fear. And really cool character. They did a pretty good job of him Chris Nolan did a good job with Scarecrow.
Cillian Murphy. So good.
Yeah, they did a great job there. And then going back to the Arkham series, they did a fantastic job with Scarecrow. Really, really enjoyable. So a lot of really cool things. And for me, number 1 is the Riddler. Enigma.
Ooh,
I'm a huge fan of the Riddler. I love that. I love his arrogance. Even though he always gets captured by Batman, he's so arrogant and he just thinks he's so much smarter than Batman. And I love how he talks down to him. And he's a really fun character. He may not be the best main villain, but man, he can screw some shit up for Batman.
So let me ask you this: how do you feel about the Jim Carrey Riddler?
I don't want to talk about it. Jim Carrey does the silly, great, but for me, the Riddler wasn't so silly.
He did the Jim Carrey character.
Yeah, Jim Carrey
which is
did
fine
his
for some
version
stuff,
of it.
not so much for the Riddler, but that could have also been a Tim Burton directing choice.
Exactly. For me, the thing that I love about the Riddler is that he's so stuck up, and that's really fun to watch. And the way he interacts with Batman is a lot of fun, and so that's what I like about him. Is he really tries to manipulate, and his whole goal is to prove he's smarter than Batman by leaving him clues on everything that he does. So really, really, I really enjoy it.
And he keeps failing. How is he not a broken man at this point? He's has he ever succeeded?
I think, no, he really hasn't, but he'll get there one day. Go Riddler. So I'm going to toss it over to Matt to go ahead and throw down on his top 5.
All right, mine's a little bit of a weird one, but number 5, points for originality, the Joker. It's hard for me to say anything that hasn't already been said, but yeah, I love just the complete batshit, pun intended.
You're the fucking... Shut up, Matt.
Shut up, Matt.
There it is.
You're the worst.
Just the complete maniacal side to him, and how they're, I think Anthony said earlier, just those moments of pure lucidity where he starts making sense, and it's kind of scary in that way. Just this insane, just madman, psychopath, whatever adjective you want to use.
Right.
Just that he can, talk you into his side almost, which is what happened to Harley Quinn,
Right.
like canonically. Number 4 for me is Clayface, actually, which
Clayface.
I don't really have much to say about Clayface, honestly. I just really think he's cool, how he's like this big mudman shapeshifter, and whole actor side to his background, how that ties into how he can portray so many different people or things through his shapeshifting.
Yeah,
like, it really gives a lot of meat to the character. Like,
and I think that there's
his powers.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really cool ways that you can do things with Clayface. Sometimes they're really corny and not done well.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and spoiler alert if you haven't played Arkham City.
Oh, I was just going to drop that.
And
I
Anthony,
love that.
I'm going to have Anthony cover his ears for this one, but man, the twist with Clayface in Arkham City was amazing. It really
so
caught me off guard. I really thought I knew exactly where it was headed.
And there are hints for it throughout the game, too.
Yeah, all the way through, and it just slapped me in the face. So that's how you do Clayface right. That was really fun.
Yeah, and he only had like one line of dialogue that entire game as well. Such a huge impact for it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but my number 3 is Poison Ivy. And no, not Uma Thurman. I see you looking at me, Anthony, because that. Nothing against Uma Thurman. I just don't like her as Poison Ivy.
The Black Age of Batman, just because like
Batman
the
and Robin. That is a
reactions
horrible
you get,
movie.
like, is amazing.
Okay, we can't. But to be fair, we can't call it the Black Age of Batman because that got a lot of us into Batman.
That's very true.
You know, a lot of people that hadn't read the comics.
Batman wears black. It's always the Black Age.
Shut up, Matt.
So, I mean, we can't call it the Black Age, but there's definitely some things I think a lot of us would like to forget.
The low point of the movieverse. We'll say that for Batman. But yeah, I love Poison Ivy. Just her powers, like plant-based powers, rarely come up, but they always. I don't know. I've always been interested in them. There's also, I think, Clara from The Runaways in Marvel, who I really liked. Also plant-based. Just kind of a rare, cool nature-based power. And obviously, you get the whole like, oh, everything's about nature with Poison Ivy. Like, I have to protect my babies.
Yeah, and I
just
think
kind of her.
There's a lot of parallels between Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze to me. I mean,
there are.
Which
I think
is
they've
really
worked
cool.
together a couple times outside of Batman and Robin.
They're both very much about like protecting Nora or protecting her plants, and I love the tragic story of how she became Poison Ivy. You know.
Oh yeah, she is one of the darker backgrounds. I'd say that's actually spelled out.
Yeah,
as far as Batman villains,
she very much has a super. I mean, as tragic as Mr. Freeze is, I would go as far to say that I think Poison Ivy has an even more tragic backstory.
Yeah, probably. Also, I love her dynamic with Harley. When those two team up, it's just a good time.
Yeah, that's very true.
Hilarious
that is
together.
true, yeah.
And my number 2, I think at number 2 I'd put Scarecrow. Honestly, like a lot of the same stuff that Chris said. I just love the way he's portrayed in a lot of things, especially the Arkham games and the Nolan films, and just how intelligent he is kind of hard to overstate. Like, I don't know. As far as what my brother has told me as well, I haven't read this comic, but Scarecrow is smart enough and just scary enough to talk a sane man into suicide within a day. Yeah. Like a completely sane man, just drive him to the edge.
The manipulation, having that.
He can get so far into your head without even using like any of his toxin or any of his methods.
It's crazy. I mean,
like
having
the fear gas is scary, just pun not intended there.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that was the thing though, because like his background was as like a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Having I think Matt said it perfectly. That what is so terrifying is he is so super intelligent. He has a background in psychiatry, and he can talk a sane man into suicide. That's terrifying because we could all. The scary thing is there are people like that out in the world.
Yeah.
So that's so terrifying. Like you see it really personified in Scarecrow, and that's absolutely terrifying. No one wants to. Freaks me the fuck out. Ugh, God.
Right. And a really weird choice for my number 1 actually is Killer Croc.
Okay.
Which I know is not a popular choice by any means. He's a little on the one-dimensional side, I would say. Like, very much the brute, just sort of an enforcer in a lot of ways. But, I don't know. He's another one of those characters that has kind of a dark, almost, I don't know, kind of a colorful backstory. He used to be, I think, in the Sideshow or a circus for a little while. In at least one continuity. The animated series, I believe. And I don't know, his portrayal in Arkham Asylum in particular was great to me. The whole sort of Jaws section going through the sewers with him stalking you. Like, it could have been handled better. You sort of just slap him on the nose with a newspaper for all intents and purposes whenever he shows up, but it made him very threatening, which, I don't know. I feel like the character needed almost.
Well, and one of the things that I
just
really...
use one specific example.
Yeah.
I've always really liked
one of the appearances that stand out to me for Killer Croc is when Jason Todd adopted the mantle of Robin. That was really the penultimate build up to Jason Todd becoming Robin, and Croc was working behind for a lot of the time. You thought it was someone, a shadowy person, some scary whatever, doing whatever. A lot of people were like, maybe it's the Joker, maybe it's blah 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 blah. But it came out that Killer Croc was working in the darkness, taking all these people out, doing all this stuff, and that really showed a side of Croc that you don't really get to see a lot of, which I really like. That was a really enjoyable thing to...
It doesn't come out much, but he's surprisingly intelligent. Obviously not to, Riddler or Joker standards, but much more than a common thug in the Bat universe.
Yeah, very much. And I mean...
And also, he's another one of those really scary ones. He is cannibalistic in at least some continuities. In, I think, Earth 1, he killed and at least ate part of Orca, another, minor Bat villain, I believe.
Yeah, and, I mean, Killer Croc's interesting because he also, Croc has also sought out multiple Batman villains to kill too. So it's not just Batman. I mean, he obviously has some grudges with Batman throwing him in Arkham and beating him up and whatever. But Croc has gone after some of the more terrifying Batman villains. I mean, he's gone after Bane. Who wants to go after Bane?
Yeah, right.
And he's probably the only one who could physically take Bane.
Yeah, and
exactly.
That's one thing that I love is that the battle scene between Bane and Croc in the comics was so awesome. It was so cool, and just the build up behind that whole thing was really, really awesome. And all of it was because Bane broke out a bunch of inmates out of Arkham, which everyone breaks out of Arkham. I don't know.
It's a revolving door. Their security is terrible for what they're supposed to be defending. But yeah, Croc is my top. So we all have kind of weird tops for that. I have Killer Croc, got the Penguin, you've got the Riddler.
Yeah, I mean,
and not really popular choice. Maybe the Riddler. But.
And I have to say, Batman, when it comes to rogue galleries, Batman has one of the best. I mean,
I'd argue he does have the best as far as comics.
Very
Spider-Man has some good ones, but I'd still put Batman's up there.
Yeah, and they've always done such a solid job of creating villains for Batman that it's a really fun rogues gallery to look at. You can analyze, and everyone's gonna.
Well, and that's the thing. Each of the villains in the rogues gallery brings a different challenge for Batman.
Yeah,
that's one of those things that
And a lot of them can be psychological.
Batman cements Batman as just a badass motherfucker because he has to outthink people like the Riddler.
Well,
he has to
One of the big things with Batman is if you put him in a situation where he has not been able to study, and he's the world's greatest detective. A lot of people lose sight of that as Batman is just beat him up and blah blah. But he's the world's greatest detective, and the reason he wins, and the reason he's able to take down a lot of these villains, and the reason he has so many issues with the Joker is his ability to study them and understand them.
Right.
And
a good example is the first time Bane showed up. Batman had no idea who he was. He didn't know what was going on, and Bane took full advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really fun, because you take Batman out of controlling the situation and being able to have the knowledge and have kind of that hand, being a little ahead of his enemy, and it puts Batman in a really, really bad situation.
Yeah. Well, and that was so again, kind of circling back to the Batman vs Superman thing, and I know you haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to spoil it too much, but the fight between Batman and Superman, I feel like they did a really good job with that. They really set it up as Superman objectively way more powerful, no doubt about it. Batman clearly outthought him in terms of how to go about the fight. So it was just really well done. They did it in such a way that it was exceptional.
And a little bit off topic, but kind of the villain version. Not really, but one of the villains that I really like is Lex Luthor. And this is completely off topic,
Luthor's
but
great.
What's great about Lex Luthor is he knows, he has his power suit when he has to actually fight, fight Superman, but he uses...
He's a PR villain.
And what's really great about
he uses his charisma as a weapon against Superman.
He's
and
very,
it works.
very charismatic, and his whole thing is that he's pro-human.
Yeah.
So that really adds a really interesting dynamic, because he's not your normal villain in that he wants to create chaos. He wants to take take advantage of people, even though he does take advantage of people. But the really big thing with Lex Luthor is he's pro-human, and that's why him and Superman are at each other's throats, and that's really fun. It's a really fun dynamic, and obviously using like his use of kryptonite to trap Batman, and
exactly,
getting him out of the sun so he loses his strength, and keeping him, in some iterations keeping him in an infrared room.
Because he essentially takes the Bruce Wayne approach to Superman.
Exactly,
and like that's the cool thing. I think it was like Justice League number 6, where Batman literally just like destroyed the entire Justice League. Because it's Batman and it's Bruce Wayne, and he had a plan for.
He's so paranoid, has all these countermeasures for everyone.
So he just like took out the entire Justice League.
Yeah, and you see that in a lot of different things. I mean, you get to see how Batman has all these countermeasures, and this is actually going to kind of lead into Matt's topic of the new Injustice game. But in the first Injustice, you get to see Batman in that situation of I have all these countermeasures, and we understand. I know how to take down every single person in the Justice League, and that single-handedly makes Batman terrifying.
Exactly. And on that note, I mean, I was sorry to kind of take over for a second.
Oh no, go ahead.
But that's I think one of the reasons why I love Batman so much, because he doesn't have any superpowers. I mean, there's the joke that his superpower is he's rich, but ultimately,
man,
really,
I want that superpower.
Money,
exactly.
Boy.
But, I mean, ultimately, realistically, Batman's superpower is his intelligence.
Yeah.
And just him, out-thinking and out-studying and out-preparing his opponents.
No, his real superpower is his parents are dead, and he had the ability to just focus on one thing. He didn't have to worry about his parents nagging him or, go to bed. So Bruce, he got to sit up and study and do kick-ass cool things with all those parents' money.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. I saved the city again today.
Again, if you haven't seen the Lego Batman trailers, you got to check it out. I think that very quickly, Will Arnett is becoming my favorite Batman voice actor.
Oh my god! Some of the
it's amazing.
It looks so good.
I'm very excited for it. But yeah, so let's go ahead. I'm going to hand it over to Matt to kind of talk about the new Injustice, which I am also very, very excited about.
Okay, but before that, since you were talking about the story, the whole Batman being able to plan against all the villains, especially because in the first Injustice, it's an evil Superman. It's in a totalitarian Superman alternate universe.
Yes.
That is a dumb story to me, just because of one simple fact, and that's in Superman's win animation in that game. It's a fighting game. Everyone has those. He goes out into space, and he hears a woman screaming for help way back down on Earth. Why couldn't he have just listened for anything about Batman's resistance or for Batman himself at any point in time in that story and just nipped it in the bud? What the fuck?
You can always argue stuff like that.
I know I'm nitpicking, but what the actual hell?
But that's the thing, is when it comes to Superman, I'm kind of looking at it as he has to actively be, doing that. I think it's more...
He wasn't actively doing it in his win thing.
I think that's the bigger issue.
Passive thing. It just happened.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger issue, is because it is something he controls. It is something he has to actively do. So,
just the way it was portrayed with that, and then the story in the same game was really dumb to me.
Yeah, and when animation...
And I like Injustice.
Can do that.
I'm not going to say too much bad about Injustice 1 because it is a good game. A little stiff for my taste in fighting games, but yeah, says you.
I'm a big fan of the first Injustice game. Matt and I put many hours into it. But for me, my background in fighting games really goes back to Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
For me, it's more Soul Calibur, Super Smash Bros, Tekken. So they're a little more fluid in my opinion.
So Super Smash Bros.
I have trouble getting into Street Fighter for that.
Everybody played Super Smash Brothers, and then again, like everyone else, I played Mortal Kombat and Tekken and all that. My favorite though was Guilty Gear. Oh my god,
Anthony,
that was so much
you
fun.
need to get a PS4 and get Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator, and you and I need to sit down and play the shit out of that. Because I've been watching a bunch of stuff. I love Jack O's design specifically.
Oh,
I want to get in on that.
The characters for that are the best. And
also, just the animation is amazing.
Yeah,
so 3D and 2D. It's so good. But anyways, back to Injustice 2. That is happening for anyone who hasn't really paid attention to it yet. They've only announced, I want to say less than maybe 10 characters so far, but they've shown some new ones already. They've shown Atrocitus, one of the Red Lanterns, super cool.
Very excited.
So-
as a huge Green Lantern fan.
Yeah, Chris is a huge Green Lantern fan.
Yeah, as a huge Green Lantern fan, I'm very, very excited for Atrocitus to be showing up. I mean, everyone knows about Sinestro, and that's really the extent for a lot of people. And
I've always
for
thought
me,
Sinestro was kind of dumb, so I'm excited to see Atrocitus.
yeah, I really, kind of going back to what I talked about with Green Lantern Rebirth, you had Rage of the Red Lanterns, which I really, really enjoyed. So seeing Atrocitus come into this is really, really exciting for me.
Yeah, my brother wants to see Agent Orange, which would also be cool.
Oh, and Agent Orange is my favorite. Out of all the Lantern Corps, the Orange Lantern is my favorite. I love the idea of only ever being one Orange Lantern and then having the avatars. That's such a cool concept. So, yeah, that would be cool to see Agent Orange. But I am very excited for Atrocitus. The whole idea. I mean, the Red Lantern's emotion is rage. How more perfect is that for a fighting game? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
and
mean,
then,
that always fits well, because, I mean, like, you even got, like, the old, like, Marvel vs. Capcom games.
Oh, yeah.
And, like,
yeah.
everybody played Venom.
I was never that into Venom. War Machine was my go-to guy in
yeah?
2.
War Machine was awesome in
Chun-Li,
2, yeah.
War Machine, and the mummy guy from Darkstalkers. That was my go-to team in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Good times.
Like,
good
I still
times.
remember that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Then another new character in Injustice 2, Gorilla Grodd, which I think is cool, but a little, I don't know, a little interesting to see.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting. I
Because
don't
the Flash
know.
doesn't have too many big villains outside of, I'd say, Grodd and a couple others, but I don't know. He looks fun.
It'll be interesting, and he kind of fits the fighting genre, and yeah. So that's cool. I enjoy Flash, but he doesn't have the best he doesn't really have the best bad guys. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to
and
see
that's
how
the
they
thing,
portray
like, so
him.
The Flash, his best story arcs are always as part of the Justice League.
They are.
Yeah, very much
Like
so. And I mean,
Flashpoint.
yeah, he's very, very intelligent, and he obviously has his kick-ass like treadmill, which everyone makes fun of, but I think it's fucking cool.
That's because it's dumb. It could
And I
be
think-
anything, and it's a treadmill.
And honestly, so, like, I know there was, like, some skepticism about the casting for the Flash for the Justice League movie.
I like him based on the
But
trailer.
the trailer I've seen, like, he actually looks like a pretty good, like...
He does, and I mean, a lot of people fall in love with the guy who plays the Flash on
Exactly.
the TV series.
Exactly.
So I can
Yeah.
understand but that's one thing. Whereas Marvel, their TV series and their cinematic universe are all together, DC has still kept those very separate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but I also have to say, I'm going to steal the show from Matt on this next character.
Oh, no. Before we get to that one, another one that is also topical and I'm looking forward to is Supergirl.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is super awesome.
I am
Obviously,
a big fan of Supergirl because she's Superman with a personality, which to me makes her a way better character. Granted, I haven't seen the TV show, but I want to because I do like Supergirl.
Just give me Superdog.
I have
Crypto, the Superdog. Yes.
I have really enjoyed the Supergirl TV show. I'm glad that they got picked up, even though, I mean, a mainstream television network doesn't really do a great job with a lot of superhero stuff. So I'm glad they're getting picked up, and they're going to be continuing that, which is super exciting. But yeah,
And in
to see
game terms, she
Supergirl-
looks cool too. Like she looks like, I don't know, she's not a clone of Superman as far as fighting moves. Like she has
Which
her
I'm
own
glad.
stuff. Which
She
is
looks
really
a lot
She seems
more-
faster.
Yeah, she's much
Probably hits
faster, a little more
lighter.
fluid and combo based to me, I think.
She's
which
cool.
is pretty cool.
Yeah. But then Chris and I are excited big time for this fourth one.
Oh my god, I can't wait. So super excited that they finally announced Blue Beetle. That's so exciting. So many people probably
for the
were like-
record, not Ted
Is that a
Cord,
sex
Jaime
tape?
Reyes.
Yes, Jaime Reyes, which is super exciting.
Probably the best Blue Beetle in my opinion, and I
By
have
far.
very little experience with Blue Beetle, but I am excited.
Yeah, so I'm super
I watched
excited.
Young Justice, and that was
Blue Beetle is. I'm so excited for it, and a lot of people are probably like, Who the fuck is Blue Beetle?" Like trying to figure that out. But very excited. Looks like he's gonna be a great character.
he looks cool.
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm
but
excited for that.
Needless to say, Matt and Anthony and I will all be putting many hours into Injustice 2 as we sit on Anthony's couch and beat each other up.
Hopefully.
And, yeah, it's
wanna
gonna be
get in on that.
It's gonna be a great time. So
Granted, it's
super
still
excited.
a ways off, and also just aside with Blue Beetle, they also announced the return of Wonder Woman as well for the game.
Which we all expected. Obviously,
yeah.
there's the core characters like
Got the
Wonder
big
Woman,
yeah,
Superman,
Yeah,
Batman, Wonder
Superman,
Woman.
Batman, Wonder Woman.
So
we
it's
all
cool to
know
see
they're
her
making their
returning because it looks
comebacks,
like
and-
they've tweaked some of her moves a bit, which is cool. But like her alongside Blue Beetle, oh man, just give me that Blue Beetle.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited.
I want to see who else they bring in.
I'm glad they're increasing the cast. I'm glad that they took a lot of what wasn't great about the first Injustice. It sounds like they're really going to be doing a good job. And it sounds like they actually may be finally putting together a good story. I know story is hard when it
Also-
comes to a fighting game.
It is.
You know, like, it's really hard to have a story of why everyone is fighting everyone. So
Yeah.
They've done it a few good ways, like Dead or Alive is just a straight up fighting tournament. They did some stuff with Mortal Kombat 9, which was really good.
Yeah, that's what Mortal
which
Kombat
is true.
was.
Yeah, you have the fighting tournaments and stuff, but
Then
when
you
it
have some really
comes,
bad stories like Soul Calibur 5 or Street Fighter 5's overarching story is terrible.
and I think the hard thing, especially when it comes to the Injustice games, is you're dealing with characters that all have history, all have stories, so it makes it really difficult to try and build a story around the fighting game.
And one last thing I will say about Injustice 2 is I want Black Canary more than any other character because she is the hand-to-hand specialist in DC, so it just makes sense for her to be in a fighting game.
It does. It'd be really cool. And I mean,
she was not there in the first, which I was really bummed about.
She could be a really fast combo-based character that you could do a lot of really fun stuff with. And I mean, it's Black Canary.
Plus, with Green Arrow in the game, if he returns, obviously, they could have a lot of fun interaction.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do really like about the Injustice games is they have a lot of custom interactions between the different characters. I love that they did that. It makes it really, really fun. Just the little Easter eggs and stuff of their interactions. It's little things like that that can make a game just a lot of fun for people. So it's really great that they do that. That's one thing I really enjoy about the Injustice games.
It is, yeah. And not my favorite fighting game by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm definitely paying attention because the first one was fun.
Yeah, definitely. So,
I will admit I'm a little more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, but I had fun with it.
Yeah, I'm a huge DC fanboy. When it comes to I enjoy Marvel, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to DC, all my favorite characters in the DC universe.
Yeah, see, I'm the same way in the opposite
and
direction.
That's the thing. I don't know. I definitely straddle the fence as far as that is concerned.
You would,
yeah. But no, it's one of those things that Marvel has some really great characters, and so does DC. I'd have to say overall, just because Batman is DC, I'd say DC wins.
Yeah.
But
for me, a big thing is the X-Men, my favorite supergroup, so
it
pushes me hard toward Marvel.
I would never say like one of them wins, one of them loses, because what's really great about comics is they appeal to all kinds of different fans, and everyone can find those ones that they really enjoy. People
they
are
have their strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly, Green Lantern yellow, blah, fuck all you guys for that, by the way. No, so it's really great.
Useless. It's not the Silver Age anymore.
Yeah, so it's really great that all those characters can appeal to different people, and it's great that they can all have their fandom. So it's a lot of fun, and DC or Marvel,
exactly. And,
comics are great. It's a lot of fun.
Not to talk down about the other ones either.
One of the things that has always fascinated me about comics is actually kind of the history behind them, because you kind of look back through when all the different characters started showing up, and you kind of get a feel for what was happening around that time.
Superman is old.
Let's face it, Deadpool would not have gone over in the golden age.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
But at the same time, look at all the changes they've had to make to Superman since his debut.
Yeah, and it's great to see. So we do want to thank you guys, of course, again for listening. Episode 1, we had a lot of fun talking about our favorite DC stuff and a lot of things that are happening in the DC universe.
Yeah, this kind of became a DC cast.
It very much did. So we'll have to do a Marvel one here in the future so we can kind of give them some love as well. But we want to, again, thank you guys for listening. We have a lot of fun doing this each week. And if you want to follow us on any of our social media, just check us out at Duly Nerded on Facebook and Twitter. You can go to www.duly-nerded.com to visit our website. We'll also be getting ready to post some videos and stuff on our YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that stuff to be coming out.
Maybe we can bust out Injustice 1 at some point.
Exactly. Maybe we'll pull out some Injustice, but keep an eye on our YouTube channel for some really great content that will be coming. Also, follow our blog on our website.
Yeah.
We got a lot of great stuff coming up. We'll be posting a lot more stories on there. Also, one thing real quick we're going to toss in here. We're going to, once a month, we're going to all take a writing prompt, and we're going to create our own stories. So that's going to be really fun to do.
That'll be fun. That was something we were discussing, just going on Reddit, pulling a writing prompt, and then just independently just seeing whatever crazy nonsense we could come up with.
So it'll be a lot of fun.
Post
but
those
again,
all on the site.
Very much so.
See what happens.
Check out the blog, follow our site, follow us at Duly Nerded on Facebook and Twitter, check out our website, and thanks again for listening.
Thank you.
Whoop, whoop.